Lou? Let's go ahead and close the iPad. You're live streaming. This is probably the best I'm going to get with live stream. With probably the best I'm going to get where I could utilize my phone and driving as I make some of these videos. So we're going to head over real time. We're going to get ready for you to start some research. Just ran a series of tests. We're going to do some actual research in a minute. Gotta get on the road. So here we go. Why we do this, I wanted to discuss some of the elements of Here we go. So Vinyasa Yoga. Why are we discussing Vinyasa Yoga? And more importantly, what can this style of yoga do for you? Vinyasa Yoga is going to be great for heating up the endocrine system. It's going to be very helpful with warming up the body, the tissues, the soft tissues of your body, helping to open up certain regions where when you do these inhales and exhales, you can frankly heat up the area and get some blood flow and circulation going. You're going to promote blood flow and circulation throughout the body, almost like doing a cardio workout. But as you do each posture, you're going to open up and produce quite a bit of activity there. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, but we want to keep in mind that Vinyasa Yoga is the most tasking, and it's for a reason one of the styles of yoga where people get injured because they attempt postures they're not necessarily ready for. If they attempt some of these postures, it's not a bad thing to do them, but you want to do them when you're ready for them. Now, that could mean doing them after you've had more time to familiarize yourself with the posture, or it could mean doing them after you've done a thorough warm-up, or it could mean utilizing props so that it makes it easier on your body to do a posture. Take, for example, the splits. If I haven't done the splits since I was 15 or ever, and I'm 35, which I am now, it would be hard for me to think I can just jump into this without hurting myself. But if I do a variation of the splits to the best of my ability and open up that region and breathe after a thorough warm-up and after doing some postures to familiarize myself with it, maybe Vinyasa Yoga before or just a series of postures during this session of Vinyasa, even if it's my first one, I significantly limit the chances of getting injured versus doing it cold into a yoga session or into not a yoga session, just doing it. So by nature of how our bodies and our soft tissues work, breathing and loosening up those soft tissues will help the joints, ligaments, and bones function a little bit more thoroughly as we get into some of these harder postures, which will no doubt help us protect ourselves from injury. So we want to keep that in mind. That's a extremely important concept to kind of keep in the back of your head, that Vinyasa is a beautiful style of yoga. It's a lot of fun, but you can get injured pretty easily doing it. So you want to be smart about it, strategic, and that's where a good yoga instructor will come in. They're kind of not only give you a cool, really awesome style of yoga to partake in as far as an actual class. Every Vinyasa class is different. So when they come up with a specific style that you like, it's just going to be really cool and exciting. So that's number one. But number two, they're probably going to keep you safe. And that's, I would say, most of their job in a lot of these instances is to protect you from you, only because you don't know the cues that they know necessarily. It's nothing bad about you. It's not a knock on you at all. It's just this is their job. They need to keep an eye on things, and they usually do this very often where they are introducing postures and poses, and it's important for them to keep an eye on it. And if they are doing it correctly, then they are keeping you safe and helping you to avoid injury best they can, best you can. It's a team effort. Things do happen. I will say this, if you get injured doing yoga, more often than not, yoga is going to be a bit of a safety net. So the injury probably would have been worse if you weren't doing yoga, more often than not. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you're doing a yin yoga class, creating a ton of hyaluronic acid, creating a lot of oxygen flow, and you overdo it and you tear your bicep or strain your bicep, there's a good chance that the yoga you did during that session will help soften the blow, if that makes sense. We all touch the hot stove, particularly when I'm working out or doing any sort of activity. I used to like doing Olympic lifting, Olympic squat, deadlift, bench press, and I would touch the hot stove on that too. But when I would give myself proper warm-ups and whatnot, I would soften the blow of the pain and the issues that I was going to have. So I hope some of that makes sense as I get ready to get out of the car and do some research sooner than later. But ideally, what you want to do is you want to limit the chance of injury, and one of the ways to do that is to be strategic about your method of vinyasa. Lots of fresh blood and oxygen and nutrients to these hard to reach regions, and try to know your limitations and be very cognizant of your limitations, because you don't have to take yourself to the end of compression, to the end of a stretch, to the end of where it feels bone on bone, where you can't go any further. Sometimes it's nice to touch there, because after you are safely warmed up, and it's not a bad thing to go there and touch there, but you don't have to. And I want to make sure that I put that out there, because you're going to get a very, very high benefit by participating in yoga, by just doing what feels good without having to go to the ends and the edges. That's all nice. If you are going to do it, it's nice to do it in vinyasa where you are just there momentarily, breath in, exhale, breath out, and you're moving on. So I want to keep that in mind. Okay. Hatha yoga is similar to vinyasa in a lot of ways, except hatha is going to be more static. You're going to be focusing on the breath for about 5 to 15 breaths. It should be about 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes. And when you do your hatha yoga, it's going to be balancing what we call the igna and pigna, the hot and the cold. So it's a cool hormonal balance for you. If you're sick or you're off, your chakra system is just off, something's out of balance. Hatha is supposed to come in and kind of sweep it on together and help it feel and operate on a more beneficial level. So when you're doing your hatha, you are going to be holding postures like Virabhadrasana, which is warrior. You're going to be holding this for about 5 to 10 to 15 breaths. And depending on your instructor, you might hold it for 2.5 minutes. You might hold it for 30 seconds. You might hold it for 1 minute. You might even go further and hold it for longer, which is where you're dipping into more of a yin yoga style class, because you're creating hyaluronic acid once you're dipping into 3 to 5 minutes, really. Though in myofascial release classes I've taken for massage, I was told 2 minutes is really what you need for hyaluronic acid to start taking place. But that is a little bit different with massage, because you're doing compression or friction on the skin. But more definitely compression if you're just holding there for hyaluronic acid to flow. But with yoga, about 3 to 5 minutes is what they're saying it's going to take for the hyaluronic acid, and 5 to 8 if you're going to really stretch some of these postures in the end. Hatha, though, is not about creating hyaluronic acid and touching range of motion. Hatha is about balancing the igna and piglia. It's a little bit of a softer version of vinyasa, which is going to heat up the endocrine system and be kind of a cardio power-based style of yoga, where you're going to be very much utilizing your body. Hatha is going to be a little bit of a step down and a little bit of a step up to the end. So those are how Hatha and vinyasa are going to play a role. with your yoga experience. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'm going to check this out, and we will talk more about some of these other styles soon. But keep in mind, Hatha is a beautiful, Vinyasa and Hatha. They're both beautiful, but Vinyasa is a beautiful style of yoga. You're going to want to do it with a lot of breath work, and you're going to want to avoid injury and be very strategic about it. And you should